Welcome to the Shift Drunk podcast. This is the pilot episode. I'm your host, Noah, and we're here with Ron and Jordan, respective hosts as well, my co-hosts, and possible
Hello.
hosts. Jordan, say something.
What's up?
Jordan is the mug.
Jordan is
I'm
the
the
mug.
mug.
I'm the creepy old guy. We'll have our cameras respectively set up soon, hopefully. But,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, this is
I'm Ron.
This is the Shift Drunk podcast. That's Ron. Shit. What do we talk about? Well, maybe we should start with how we met, pretty much. Like, I'll let you take that, Ron.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we could start there. We could, or
Should we just do like our intros?
I
Or
guess,
should
yeah,
we
we
start with
can
how we
start there.
met first? Oh, shit. I'm
Oh,
lagging.
Ron.
Oh,
So I
is that
think
just
Ron's
Ron?
camera died.
Oh.
Oh.
That's like the
Oh.
perfect shot. Ron, are you still there, bud?
yeah, I'm still here.
Oh, you are? Okay.
What's going on with your camera?
God, that looks so bad.
I don't know.
Can you see what we're talking about?
Oh, there
No,
it
I'm
is.
not.
Back,
My
it's back.
camera's still rolling.
Oh no,
Here,
it
one
was
minute.
bad. It was bad. Okay. Well, we gotta leave all
Just
that.
change it to my rear camera.
Oh God, Ron, what the fuck?
Pixels.
Can you
Yum.
see my mouse?
Now I can. Oh my God, that's horrible quality.
Um,
Well, I guess like we're just like three retarded fast food workers is how we met pretty much. That's pretty much how we like started off as like friends, was working together at a Midwest fast food place called Culver's. Kind of a shit job to say the least, but like yeah, I don't know. I'll let like Ron take it from there. You started there first before me and Jordan. We
Yeah.
could just go like
No,
chronology.
I was there before Ron.
Wait, were you?
I was there first. Yeah, I was.
Were you actually?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, let's-
Ron was in shortly afterwards, but yeah.
Yeah, I've been
I
there
was
longer now.
first. Mostly because when we were still in high school was telling me about all the crazy crap that went down. Before it became kind of a bit of a hellhole. You know, some of the funny stuff that went down, some of the stuff the managers did. And I was like, that sounds fun. And I want a job. I want a job for the summer. So I applied, I interviewed, I showed up, and it wasn't a terrible job, for the most part. Before we got into Culver's. So, and then Ron knew some of the other workers that were already there. It was
Mhm.
pretty much, there was a bunch of people from the high school that were there.
Yeah.
How many people? Must have been at least
That
like,
was-
half the staff.
That was more
There
than
was a
half the
lot
staff.
at one point.
Wasn't it all band
Yeah.
kids and Boy Scouts, right?
Yeah,
Pretty
basically. There was like two cliques. One was the Boy Scout clique, and the other was, band or band friend clique. Yeah, and I mean,
Those groups kind of merged
those-
together at some point.
yeah, and also they worked together probably for a year and a half, and then people started quitting.
That's when I started
And
coming in.
obviously,
That's
Yeah.
definitely. I came around like the time like when me and started. Me and started a week apart. Nick was already
Yeah.
working at the time. You were there a year already. You had just become a manager. I know, Ron. You had
Mhm.
you had been a manager for maybe a month. Jordan, you were a minor still, so you couldn't have been a manager yet.
No.
I just remember I came in at like the tail end of like we just lost like the old like people like those people were like gone.
yeah,
And it was just
Too.
oh
Right?
yeah, Keith was gone. I hadn't met him before either. So like all like the big god like people were gone, but like new people like started like rising up. Like was there of course like those kind of people. Should we be using like names like real names?
I don't know. We can bleep them.
Yeah, we
I'll
could
say
like
no.
maybe like bleep out like
Yeah.
last names. I was thinking last names
I'd
we
say
should be
maybe
able
not
to.
last names.
So I did just say Zach.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, right, because that's how we refer to him as. So you should stop saying that.
Zach-
'Cause I beep it like 4 times now.
Well,
Yeah.
what about people like? That's his last fucking name, and that's how we address him. We'd have to say Josh.
Well, okay, he can be an exception. Just text him after
Say
we
r-
shoot
just
this.
say
but-
Yeah. Oh yeah. Just
Yeah.
we'll bleep.
I don't know.
some
We're,
somehow.
we're
We'll
giving
figure
away
it
a lot
out.
of personal information right now. We're gonna have to figure this part out.
Yeah. I mean, we can bleep like last names out, like leave a few things, and we can text certain people too. But like, maybe we should keep it a little bit less personal than this. Just like get out of like the whole like using first and last
Yeah,
names.
I didn't want to stay on this part very long. I mean, I kind of wanted to jump into basically where we got this idea and also why the podcast is called Shift Drunk.
That might be a good
Okay,
idea.
yeah.
So
because like if you're listening to this right now, you probably have no context, and it was probably shared by one of us three to you.
oh yeah, the only reason I'm bringing
yeah.
work in so heavy is just because like this is the reason why we like made this
Right,
podcast
right, right.
because we're like shift
Yeah.
drunk. Like at first the job was great, like Jordan said. It was a pretty good job, like for the most part. Like we had a lot of good workers and that kind of thing. But then after a while, it got shit. Like, and we got Ron coined the term shift drunk. Is how we get like so like what like. How do you describe our behavior, Ron?
Okay, yeah. So we would get so out of it and like I guess delirious just from being tired and just stressed out.
Well,
that,
also, it wouldn't help that I was also stoned too. Like I'd be completely
Well, that's
fucking
like-
blitzed.
Isn't that like your perpetual state?
I am perpetually stoned usually, yes.
No, so yeah, we would get so like just stressed out and delirious from all these like all these rushes that like we coined the term, or maybe we didn't coin the term. Maybe it's like an already existing term. I'm not sure.
We
I
just
guess
started
I'd have to
using
look
it
that up.
frequently at work.
Yeah, we started using it frequently. Whenever we would hit that state of mind, we would say, "Uh-oh, we're starting to get shift drunk," and then we'd start talking about the stupidest topics, the dumbest topics,
Stoner
half the stuff we said
topics,
didn't
like
make any sense.
A lot of this stuff didn't make sense, or if it did, we would go into a lot of detail and like, you know, almost have like
Unnecessary
miniature
detail, I
TED
might
talks or
yeah, we'd have
Yeah.
like essentially like podcasts, and at some point, we were talking about getting like mics and attaching them to ourselves to like record at work. But, like,
yeah.
I remember we
Yeah.
talked about that. Like we were gonna do like an 8-hour long recording session, see what kind of bullshit we'd get. But like, I don't think that ever came
Well, we
to
talked
fruition.
about that as like an idea, but then like you look at like recording laws and Michigan's wiretapping laws, and then you realize that it's not a one-party consent state, and if you were to just record two people talking,
I
you'd be
think,
recording other people
I think
too.
recently
That's
it was
true,
ruled though
that's true.
that a bit off topic, but I think it was recently ruled that Michigan is a one-party consent state.
Is it?
I
What's-
believe it might be.
What's that mean? One party consent.
So basically, and it's kind of funny the way it works. So normally, it's going into wiretapping laws. You have, if you wanted to record someone, right, you would need to tell them you're recording them. So like if me and you were having a conversation and I wanted to record you, it would be called a two-party consent state.
Okay.
Or if I had to get your permission.
He
So,
would
like-
have to know, and you would have to know. Yeah.
Right. So if one party consent means that as long as one person who is privy to the conversation consents to it, so you can consent to your own recording of your own conversation without telling the other person. What it gets into is wiretapping. So like if someone's not part of the conversation. So let's say me and you are having a conversation and Ron cannot wiretap our conversation because he's not privy to the conversation. He's not consented to the recording of the conversation. But like if me and you were alone and I wanted to record the conversation, I'm pretty sure I'd have to double check that. So
That's
don't
Yeah.
quote me if I'm
interesting.
wrong.
The
But yeah,
what about so like let's say like we're playing like CS:GO and I decided to like record that session with like randos in like a competitive game or something. Is that
I don't think
legal?
that's the same.
It's not like the same kind of
so
situation.
I don't. I think that might get into when you don't have any reasonable reasonable sense of privacy. So like if you're in a public place,
Yeah.
I think it's legal to record people because if you're in a public setting, that you don't have any reasonable sense of privacy.
Right. It's assumed if it's
Um,
private, that's where those laws come into play.
Right. So I guess I don't know how that would translate into like an online game lobby. You know,
Yeah.
is
No, I think that assumption is correct, and also
Probably
like there
carry
hasn't been
over.
any major case that has brought that up because
I
it's
feel like
assumed public.
if you're online, that's just like public domain, right? Like that's essentially
Yeah.
like unless you copyright your own voice, but like
Well, like if someone was listening to this conversation now, and obviously like we're not live, so like that part, ignore the part that this is a podcast. If someone was listening to this right now through the internet and we didn't know, then that would be wiretapping, Whereas if we were broadcasting this, it wouldn't be, and that's the difference online, I think.
Interesting.
Oh no, yeah,
That's
because
Yeah.
we were our expectations for this is that the conversation is happening amongst this group.
Yeah, like us
Yeah.
three, no one else type thing, for sure.
Can you imagine that you're live streaming and you're like, okay, let me get my lawyer on the phone. These people are watching.
Yeah.
We're gonna sue
I have
all
a whole
you
bunch of people
fuckers.
commenting live. Are they wiretapping? Can I sue them?
This is
Yeah,
No,
I need all the money.
Oh. Well, should we get back on topic with like talking
Yeah,
about
so
our
to
intro?
get back to what we were saying, like the idea came up first is like, well, we should just record what we're saying, because like I know
work specifically.
when I talk to people, and I think I get a really good conversation that like is worth revisiting later, or has something's been said that's like, yeah, okay, well, that's kind of important. I like to think sometimes like, well, it would have been nice to have that recorded, because like that was I don't know, it was just like that kind of conversation. I
Yeah,
think that's where that idea
we've
came into
definitely had a
play.
lot of like very interesting, like introspective conversations, as well as like we've had like a lot of like conversations about a very broad variety of things, like from like
Yeah,
sexuality to like history to drugs to fucking like work to
Remember, we
fucking-
stayed up till like
Politics and
5:30
economics.
a.m. talking about Neuralink.
Oh my god,
Yeah.
that was so cool.
Yeah,
we've had,
and
like,
the
Yeah.
implications of that on society, and maybe what that could mean for the future.
and like the ethics of that sort of thing.
Yeah,
like
And that's the kind of stuff that you can expect to probably hear us talk about, because we talk about, we're just shooting the shit. That's what people talk about when they're hanging out. And I think that we get in depth enough that like, well, you might want to listen to it, maybe give you a couple ideas,
I feel like we also have
the
like
listener.
we also have like a good like improv-y type, like we're good like riff off each other. Like we're like a funny group when we're together. So like we're not gonna like be a boring like listen, I'd say. Like there's not
Yeah,
gonna be
we'll
like
get better as we do more of these too.
oh for sure. Like there's gonna be
not
like
to
some
brag, but we're pretty fucking hilarious.
Yeah,
shut the fuck
we're
up.
pretty funny guys.
But like I mean like at work like we're always like laughing because like one of us said something stupid or like did something stupid. Like there's
When we
never like a
work
dull
together.
moment when we're working together.
Yeah.
Like we haven't worked together in a while, obviously, because Jordan doesn't work there anymore. I only work 1 day a week there.
Yeah.
We're trying to get our boy Ron out of there.
Yes, we
Yeah.
are. But like that's why we wanted to start this, is because like us as a group, like we felt like we were like the best like group out of like there that like could riff off each other well enough. Like we were good with like the improv-y stuff, and we were able to keep a conversation going without pause for like 6 hours straight through like work and shit. So like we could easily do an hour-long podcast and like keep it
Yeah.
interesting. I'd say. I don't know.
Not only
Did,
that, it's just kind of fun,
Oh yeah,
you know.
like talking,
Yeah.
like having like interesting conversations, like very introspective or very like interesting, like learning something new, or like I don't know, finding more out about yourself that you didn't know, like that kind of stuff is like very interesting to me. And
Oh yeah,
I like taking like a bong rip and just listening to like Joe Rogan or like Misfits podcast. So like I like
I'm not exactly in the same boat, but I love it
Yeah, I
like
can't agree.
12:30 when I'm like trying to sleep and I'm just having a hard time getting to bed, putting on
Yeah.
like just a 2 hour long video of someone doing whatever, a creator I know, just
I like
just to kind of white
podcasts
noise it. Yeah,
mostly for like the car, like especially long road trips, and more so is like because sometimes you like listen to music for a long time, maybe hours, and you just get tired of it, even if there's another song and another song and another song, and they just keep coming on, and you do like them, but just music itself, it's like, okay, I'm tired of this and I need to listen to something else. But then
Yeah.
also more recently, just to get more out of time that I feel in a certain way is wasted, because if you like look at a year's worth of driving, like, okay, look at your commute, 15 minutes, 5 days out of a week, times 52, and times whatever, how many minutes, it all just adds up. And that's not even that much time in your day.
I've never even thought
but it
about
is a lot of
in
time
that way.
wasted. Yeah.
that's like
Yeah.
really in depth. I feel like I just got high listening to that. Fuck. But like
Uh,
Yeah.
I
that
have
reminds
to.
me though.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead. I was gonna go like
Okay,
in
I was
depth into
say
something.
just kind of speaking to that point. One time I was really curious, and I was talking with a friend of mine at work. I don't know if you were there, Ron. But we were like, how much time do you spend? Like, first of all, how long is the average, human life expectancy? And then you look into how long, like how much percentage of your life do you spend sleeping, like
Ooh,
sleeping?
we're getting
And
existential
then we
here.
were like, yeah. And then how much of your time do you spend eating? How much time do you spend driving? How much time do
Yeah.
you spend in the bathroom? And like we worked it out, and it was really kind of chilling because like we were able to work out, okay, as far as just free time, as far as you being able to do whatever the hell you want, it ended up being like I think 10 years. So 10 years, and
Out of
the
the
person I was
average
talking
human
with was
lifestyle like expectancy.
right.
Wow.
Well, no, for she was in her 20s. So what she had left, and as far as like just pure free
Oh
time,
wow.
Right.
was like 10 years, which is crazy to think about.
Well, and being in your 20s at that point too, there's probably, if the answer was 10 years of just available free time left before life expectancy, average age you're expected to die, if that's 10 years in the future, I would assume it's something like close to 10 years in the past that you had for free time because you weren't
Doing as
working and you
much.
had more
Right.
time. It was just at most school. And once you're out of school, your life is the movies or playing with friends or whatever. And
Mhm.
also, if you look at the perception of time and you think about I don't remember what it's called, but it's a hypothesis about like perception or whatever. Basically, if you're 2 years old, 1 year is half of your life. Whereas if you're, 10 years old, well, 1 year is only a tenth of your life. And then you extrapolate that till you're like 76. And that's why time seems to go faster when you get older. Or that's at least an idea of the, perception.
So you're saying
Um,
like
Yeah.
and so like your perceived free time, while it might be, it's probably like a ridiculous amount of free time, at least you felt like you had when you were a kid.
mhm.
And in reality, the number is probably still close because you weren't obligated to do as much.
True,
Right.
true.
Yeah.
I guess though,
So
like
gotta use that free time.
is the theory that like the older you get, the faster time feels like it's going type thing?
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you think about it, I'm 21. So 2021 will feel like 22nd of my life because I'll be turning 21 or 22.
Interesting.
Whereas like in 2014, I was 14 or 15, depending on the month. And that's a much smaller fraction. So, the fraction, if you like were to look at it all cut up, is a bigger size. Because we're talking like what, it's like 0.5 to 0.1 if you're like,
So
2 years old to 10 years old. That's
so
the amount of life you've lived so far.
why do you think that like it seems that we're like losing like time as we're getting older? Do you think it's like our mind is learning to like trim the fat on like certain things, like if you know what I mean, like trimming like the day, like remedial stuff is like missing type thing? Like, do you?
Um,
Maybe.
Because
I
like
think
feel like as
also
like our brain like is developing when we're younger, so like we experience like everything, like every new like sense, every new smell is just like
yeah, that's another
it's
part of it.
very much
well, like
like
also to add on to that, I think it's like it also comes down to your expectations, and like an illustration I'll use just to kind of really explain what I mean is like when you were younger, when you got like $5 for your birthday, right? You were like, oh crap, I'm rich.
oh
Like I
yeah,
can go
it's all
buy
about respect.
whatever I wanted.
All about respect.
And then as you have your expectation of okay, $5 is a lot of money, but then you keep getting $5, it becomes less. You perceive it as less valuable. So now by the time you're like 20, you're like, if you got like $100, you're like, okay, I can
Gotta
cover
be,
some gas, I can cover
yeah,
food, I can cover bills. It becomes less valuable as time goes on, as you come to expect
right. And arguably,
certain
that
things.
$100 you get when you're 20 is still less valuable than the first $5 you got because it's not only is like it's not like a math problem where it's like, well, 5 goes into 100 this many times, it's
It's the
I've gotten
value you get
$100
hard.
before,
It's like
and when I got the first $5, I never had $5 before. So it'd be like
Right.
if you were given $100,000 when you're 20. Wow, I've never had this much money.
Right.
That would be similar, but it doesn't happen like that, and you have to earn it over time, and you just get used to things.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it comes down to repetition. I mean, just look at like last year and also still this year, where the feeling of time and kind of like what day is it, what month is it, I don't even know anymore.
I don't even care.
Yeah, because we're all just doing the same thing for the most part. Social interaction is like way down. And yeah, I mean this will probably hopefully feel like the longest couple of years in our lives until we get, well, yeah, just hopefully, because as
Yeah,
time goes on, years
I was
feel
gonna
shorter.
say,
So
I've been feeling like
yeah,
this last year, like 2020, kind of flew by for me. Like really sadly, like the first
I don't know, I felt
it wasn't slow for me. So like the first like couple months, it was like all right, like like before like the World War III stuff, like my world record attempt for like the Minecraft
Iran,
shit,
yeah,
the Iran
yeah,
stuff, that was so funny. But like then COVID hit, and like I was like I can't work during this. I have asthma. I don't want to catch it because I know these customers are fucking retarded and they're not gonna wear masks or they're gonna cough on somebody, or like somebody's gonna come into work and be like I'm symptomatic, so I'm like I can't work. So I was at
yeah,
home and I stayed home unless I went to the grocery store. And I did that for what 4 months, 3 or 4 months. And the first week was slow, like extremely slow. Like I felt like it was just like moving, like time was moving slower than normal. And then the next week it got a little bit faster. And then like a month went by and I was like, holy shit. And then I get an email from Culver's 3 months later saying it's time for me to go back to work, and I'm like, wait, what? What day is it?
Yeah.
It was so
yeah.
weird. It was so trippy. Like I didn't do much. Only went on like walks and such. Like not too much. And, like, the
Do you
grocery store-
think that living through it felt long? The days feel long, like just maybe not even like looking at how the time felt. Like if I look back at how long, like my birthday party, like how long that day felt, like how did I experience time? But like when you're in the moment, like if that from that perspective, like right now, when you just go home and you sit down after work and it's like everything just feels slower. Maybe I'm not even thinking of like how the time has gone by, but more so like what am I doing? I haven't done anything in the last year. And maybe more like goals and the amount of stuff you can cram into your time. Maybe that's what I'm getting at, not really the perceived time. Because like you said, I kind of, if last year felt long, but it also felt short because I kept like looking at the days go by and it's like, wow, we're already in December
Well,
and I haven't done anything since March. But
once I came back to work,
it felt
time
slow.
slowed down again. That's like the thing.
Yeah.
Is like I was doing stuff again. Like I was actually getting out and going to work, and I'd have to like set an alarm and like wake up at a reasonable time, and then do like the same cycle for 40 hours a week. And I think that's why like when I was on quarantine, time sped up because like I was literally doing nothing. I played video games, watched TV, Joan out.
I think I know what you're meaning, Ron, and kind of know what you're getting into when you say like time felt really slow, but it also felt really fast. I think part of what that is when you don't have like what is it? Like spontaneous action is the spice of life. So when I was waking up and not seeing any friends and doing the same exact thing over and over again, time itself went by really fast because it didn't feel like anything was happening, but it also went really slow in the sense that I didn't feel like, well, anything had happened. So there was
Yeah.
nothing remarkable in my mind that I could pay attention to or that I could assign focus to. So in a way, it's easy for like those days to kind of just smear together when in your brain it's the same exact thing over and over and over again. And it can also feel slow though because there's no events that you feel were impactful or that made you a better person or caused you to
Right.
grow in any way. I think that's what I really experienced. Like, I think we just forget, like, people are, oh, I'm an introvert, I'm an extrovert, whatever we assign ourselves, all these different labels. But
Labels are
even if
fake.
you not necessarily, but like even if you consider yourself an introvert, humans are social creatures.
Yeah.
You gotta at least
You have to
be
have
around
some
like-minded
interaction.
people. Yeah, or you start to feel like
Yeah.
you're going insane a bit.
I will agree in the
Um,
fact that like time was definitely slow and fast, and like I'd agree that like when you're doing
Yeah.
nothing and having no interaction, it was definitely like quicker. But like once like we started hanging out a bit more, I was back at work again. Jordan and I were like all three of us were back
Yeah.
at work and working together again and having like friends to talk to. It definitely like slowed down a bit, and I won't say that's like a bad thing because like I felt like I was actually doing something, but like I just like go home and then I like repeat the cycle every day. And it was like that's why it went
Well,
like kind of like fast as well.
yeah, an interesting thing. So I remember recently Vsauce came out with a video, and it's called Illusions of Time. And I remember watching it, and I just pulled it up. There's something called like the holiday paradox, and basically, like, let's say you're at an airport, right? And you have a delay, and it feels really long in the moment, like prospective, you know. Retrospectively, when you look back, you don't the feeling of time passing is relatively short, right? Whereas right next to it, if you have like an exciting day or there's something that you've done in the moment, it feels short. But if you look back and you parse through the memories, it felt longer, which I think is what we're getting at.
Because
Is
there's
how like
events to kind of mark the time almost.
yeah,
So like you're saying
Yeah.
like if we have like no like, and I guess we could get back to like the whole like younger like time moving
keep
like
hitting.
slower thing is because like I feel like we have like certain moments in our memory of time that like make us like shape us as human beings, and maybe like when we're younger we have so many of those moments because I've never seen this color before, that's changed my
Oh,
mind
Yeah.
right.
completely, like that kind of stuff. And like but we don't have those as much as adults, like because like there's not a lot of things that we like haven't experienced in our like local area that like would
I
change
could
our
read you
lives.
what Wikipedia says the holiday paradox is. It
Yeah,
says
sure.
the more new memories we build on a weekend getaway, the longer the trip will seem in hindsight. This phenomenon, which Hammond has dubbed the holiday paradox, I'm assuming this guy wrote a book or something. He's the guy who coined it. Seems to present one of the best clues as to why, in retrospect, time seems to pass more quickly the older we get. So, I think
Interesting.
everything we've talked about are contributing factors or could be. I mean, we're not scientists
Yeah,
or
no,
anything like
by no
that,
means.
but like we're just kind of spitballing. And I think a lot of people have similar feelings or thoughts, especially with this last year, because everyone's situation has been different.
Yeah, that's been a weird
There's
fucking year, dude.
yeah, there's been people who were able to work from home, and nothing really changed in that sense. But like, besides work and your income and the things that technically matter, everything else changed. And then you have other people who basically, lost their job, but are more comfortable hanging out with friends or going out to eat. So only that part changed. So like, just on that kind of thought wave, brain vibe, whatever you want to call it, like there's multiple ways that I feel like people could have experienced last year. And
Like,
I don't know.
do you remember how excited some people were? Where they were like, "Oh, we have to spend all day indoors and watch YouTube and play video
Yeah.
games. Sign me up!" Like that
I
sounds
think
like
I was
heaven.
one of those actually.
Yeah.
I was all for
Yeah,
that.
I think a lot of people were like that for a while.
And then like
that was like
it becomes
the beginning of like the COVID, because like that was when like the Tiger
Yeah.
King documentary came out. Like
the COVID.
yeah, like the COVID, but like
Yeah, I forgot about Tiger King when we.
that feels like it's
I
been like
moved in and
6
I
years.
watched that without a couch in my living room on my teeny TV.
Damn. Wait, you moved in that long ago?
Yeah,
Damn,
Yeah.
dude. Holy shit.
yeah. I didn't have any furniture. Just put the TV on the ground and watch Tiger King.
That's
Wait, what's Tiger King?
Joe Exotic. You know that
didn't
guy?
watch? You didn't watch Tiger King?
I've never watched Tiger King.
He has a famous song that goes like this, Jordan. Let me sing it for you real quick.
Okay.
I saw tigers Now I understand. I saw a tiger. Tiger saw a man. And that's one of his great songs. He
Yeah.
it's actually on my Spotify liked songs, sadly.
Are you joking? Are you joking?
No, Brittany
this
actually
fan
asked.
is
No, this is a
Yeah.
real thing. I didn't make that up
I
at all.
it's
couldn't-
the real deal.
I couldn't tell.
No, this
I
is
thought
real.
Maybe. Wait. So what is?
Oh,
I feel
basically, so Joe Exotic ran a private tiger zoo. He owned what, like 200 something tigers. He was also on meth, and he was very flamboyantly gay, and he got all of his boyfriends on meth. And
And one of them committed
Killed
the go end
He
life
accidentally killed
cycle.
himself.
No respawn available.
yeah, he got
That's how we say it without
he's-
saying bad words.
he fucking shot himself in the head. Like, I mean, no, it'd have beaten around the bush.
He
for that.
yeeted himself. Yeah, no, that was yeah. Yeah.
yeah. That's like
was
that's
a
like the
big
best
oof.
overview of the
Is it like
series.
really popular? Have I just been under a rock?
Yeah, no,
Oh
you
yeah,
were
no,
under a
that
rock.
was an extremely popular thing. Like everybody actually watched that. Like
Didn't it drop at like the right time?
it,
'Cause
it
everyone was
dropped like
basically locked up?
immediately as the lockdown started. Yeah, like once I think I watched that the
Yeah.
week that like I went into lockdown. It was so weird. Like the government knew, and then they told Netflix, "We're gonna lock down. We're gonna release this fake COVID."
Yeah.
And like,
Well, there's a lot of stuff that happened like that where, via the quarantine and all that, it didn't all happen immediately in the same locations, but for the most part, around mid-March, that's when it kind of shit at
Well,
the fan.
Italy was
So, like,
in
you look
quarantine.
at VR and how that exploded.
Ooh, very
yeah.
true.
Kind of what I'm getting at.
Very
Or
true.
even the consoles and computer parts.
Yeah, and those are still.
GPU
Well,
shortages. Yeah.
The worst thing about my quarantine, though, so my internet was so fucking shit that I could barely even watch Netflix. I couldn't play video games at all. I remember I tried to play with you
we
one day,
tried playing
Jordan.
CS:GO.
Yes, remember that. There was I remember I could just
Spaghettiing all over the place.
I was just standing in the middle of a hallway spraying people down because they couldn't even hit me because I kept moving all over the place. Like I felt like I was playing Fortnite, just like jumping all over the place, but like without doing that, it was. But like my internet was always constantly at like 1,000 ping, no matter what. And so
How do you think people are gonna look back? Like, because I feel like for me, this is the first time I've really felt like, oh shoot, this is like a significant point in history.
I think it'll be similar to, well, at least in terms of experience and how, like, you have a mental impression of a significant event, probably something like 9/11, because that was the most recent big national crisis, if you would like to call it that,
I feel
Yeah.
like this is
however you
affecting
want to
people
word that.
differently mentally though. Like I agree with you.
Oh,
that
yeah, no.
The
Yeah,
aspect of
but
like
just
9/11 is actually a good comparison though, because like there is a lot of like Americans were very racist towards the Chinese after the COVID thing hit, because like, and if that you can compare that to Muslims after 9/11, and like that was like. and,
I
like,
mean, I
we
guess
can
there were
remember
ways that they kind of mirror each other in some aspects, but I was
It's a
getting
national
more so
tragedy.
to the point where you'll remember where you were at when things got serious in your area.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah, it'll have like a very
You'll
lasting.
remember
impression.
death counts and stuff, and like the spread of it and that kind of stuff. And I think people will talk about that.
And like,
But I
family
don't think
members that
people
get it.
will just bring it up. Like, I don't think I'm gonna be like, a
Remember
grandfather
COVID?
and be like, "Hey there, Sonny, back in the 2020s, Grandpa experienced a mental breakdown." Like, it'll
I
be
mean,
more
like-
like someone talks about it historically, and I'm like, "Oh yeah, I was there for that."
Yeah, like that's.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think it's gonna be like a lot of people like back in the day. No offense to all the boomers, they're kind of pussies because like they're all like World War II fucked us up. Then we had to live through like all these like pandemics after this, and then like all this stuff, and it's like we're joking about it now. We're like, ha, I know somebody who died from COVID.
Yeah.
Like shit like that. Like,
I don't
we're
know.
just gonna like joke
I
about it.
think
Like we're not gonna like really. I don't think it's gonna traumatize us as badly as like some people think it is. And I could be wrong in that because like some
I
people
would-
have had
speaking
bad
to that,
surgery.
Speaking to that though, I think that, and I was having a conversation with Ron about this. I don't think we're ever gonna really get to the point where anything really, unless like we experience it personally, where anything is gonna like traumatize the new generation. You know, because like I think it's so ingrained in like us as a generation to just laugh off most things
Laugh off
that
our
I don't
pain.
think we'll get. Well, like yeah, legitimately. So I don't think we'll get to the point unless we get like drafted to fight
Yeah.
North Korea or something.
Oh yeah,
that we're we're not joking about terrible,
See,
terrible
I
events.
think
Even
if
then-
if you're going to compare a generation that has gone through something like Vietnam or war, you have to think about, well, they've had a lot of time to sit on it and probably not necessarily talk about it.
that's
And there
true.
wasn't a medium that connected them all instantaneously whenever they want.
That is very
internet,
true.
right?
We have a very different culture to
The-
us. Like we're very
Yeah.
connected. We're very like everyone talks about their feelings. Everyone's very like emotional. Like we don't have
But
to deal
also,
with
like, in terms of being traumatized or having experiences that to the next generation after us, when we talk about them, will be to them what people joke about Vietnam like is to us. I that might still happen, but it would be more of like boiling a frog in a pot of water, where you're slowly cranking the heat, because we're constantly exposed to literally everything. It's never like, you have your set life and your very
oh Ron.
We lost.
Ron. Well,
Thank you all for joining.
hold on, let me see what we're at actually. We're at 39 minutes right now. Oh, Ron. Ripper.
thinking about it, but
Oh.
we'll also constantly be changing
Wait.
our minds.
Ron.
So I'm gonna be honest with you.
We
We
missed
lost
all
you
that
for like
part.
30 seconds.
Damn.
You cut out for a second. We were just.
Where
like,
was I at?
I don't remember.
You said we're a little bit after the boiling pot. Boiling
the frog in the pot.
analogy.
Okay. Yeah, no, so I was just basically saying, since we're all constantly exposed to everything, and when it comes to like the news, or just current events, whatever, it's just one thing after another, and
Oh,
our
yeah.
attention spans as a society, for the most part, are very momentarily focused. And I think that over time, especially with the younger generation, that maybe, and I don't know honestly if there's ever been any generation that has a very direct outward, like, philosophical or ethical or morally thinking kind of focus, but I think, if we don't focus on how we want our future to be, and we're all very momentarily focused on things, I think we could get pretty messed up as old people.
Mm.
Yeah.
And I
like,
don't
if
think
you
we'll ever
just-
go to like war again, but it's a information age. We're all connected.
So are you
So,
thinking like
That's where
if
war's at.
the only way that this would like really affect is if we like decided to like sit and think on it for like literal years? Is that like the overview of what you're saying, or did I miss the point completely?
No, I think what I'm saying is, over time, especially as younger people, we're just born into the internet and all these connected devices. The effects of just everything being instantaneous and people not thinking long term for their own, for like societal goods and benefits and stuff like that. And then also, just how people get their information. I think if we're not smart about it now, we could be messed up like old Vietnam people, is what I'm saying. We won't be saying they're in the trees, but we'll be saying like, I don't know,
They're in our
someone stole my
lungs.
Bitcoin in 24.
They're in our
You know?
lungs. The
Bro,
coke
I
is in the fucking.
I hope what I'm
lungs,
saying
grandson.
makes sense in some way.
You're using some big words, and I'm kind of high, but like.
You're also high.
Like I think I get the gist of what you're saying though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. This is the depth I wanted to go into for the podcast. So
Oh
hopefully,
yeah, I'm
I
enjoying
didn't
this.
lose anyone.
No,
Well,
yeah, this
listening
is
to this.
while you
it's
were
fun.
disconnected, I checked the time. We're at like 40 minutes right now, but we can keep it going. I'm very down
All
to.
right.
No, so just a quick little thing that I read, kind of what you're going into, Ron, is younger people are so good with the whole internet and connected devices and constantly feeding ourselves information. Younger people have gotten so good at digesting information really, really, really quickly, but it's created this almost addictive uh behavior in the brain where like it's hard to commit to one thing for long
Yeah.
periods of time.
Well,
Because
it's
you always feel
cyclical in a way too, because
So are you
it's all
saying
driven by revenue.
So are you saying like maybe like developing like essentially like ADHD like generation wise? Because like I feel like
That's what I'm saying. I think so let's say you're developing a platform like Facebook, right? Your goal is to get more interaction, and if the way you get more interaction is by getting dopamine out of people's brains and getting them to come back, then that's not necessarily creating so much something like ADHD, but rather like an addiction where
interesting. I
have
know
to.
I know that
Yeah.
Google and Facebook and like other like social media platforms have hired like psychiatrists and other people to develop algorithms to make you stay on the site for hours at a time.
right.
Yeah.
Essentially creating it like an addiction. Like it grips into you. Like I've had to delete a lot of social media apps because that's like time wasting. Like I don't know. I think like I need to
Yeah.
delete like Facebook and shit too. Because like there's no point in like just scrolling for hours.
The only
for
reason I
no
keep
reason.
Facebook is for Facebook Marketplace to look at like total chargers in Detroit. You know,
Yeah, I
just
could
look
buy
at
that.
Yeah.
Dude, did you know that I don't know if any of you use the apps, but I guess this isn't super recent, but OfferUp and Let Go merged together. Like
Oh,
OfferUp
really?
absorbs
Took them
them.
long
Yeah.
enough.
I've
Yeah,
never
I
heard of
know.
them.
I only ever used Offer Up. Is that the green one?
Yeah, it is the green one. I
Yeah.
use it. I used it occasionally. I haven't been doing it so much. Just
Can you
shit. I
explain
guess
what
yeah,
those
it's been
are
a
for
whole year.
the users?
So
that
It's like
Craigslist for
Craigslist.
non-boomers.
Yeah.
Oh,
So hopefully safer,
I was gonna
Yeah,
say
but
Craigslist
still
is sketchy
kind of
as
like
fuck.
be smart.
Well,
Yeah.
like obviously be smart, but yeah, there's a whole verified system that
Meet
you
at
can
a
do and
McDonald's.
ratings and stuff. It's pretty like as long as you're not like, yeah, I'll meet you in a back alley to buy Bitcoin or something stupid.
What, you wanted me to bring a syringe? That's weird. I'm just buying car tires. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But no, yeah, kind of off topic, but no, but kind of trying to jump back on topic. I've noticed in myself, like I like to read, but when I was younger, like middle school and even early high school, I could take a book and literally read the entire day and just get so absorbed into the book that I would have to be reminded to come eat dinner or even be annoyed when I had to go to the bathroom.
I was
Yeah.
the
So
same
I
way.
used to be
I was
able
the
to,
same way.
yeah. So I wonder if just becoming more reliant on technology and having so many responsibilities and just different distractions has decreased my attention
Um,
span.
On the reading topic, I will agree with you that like technology definitely like decreases attention span because I used to be a very avid reader as well. And like once I got like a cell phone, like with social media, games and shit to play on, like I stopped reading gradually. Like throughout high school I just stopped reading, but like when I was like I want to say second grade, I was like reading at like high school reading level because like I was a very avid
Yeah.
reader. My grandmother was a very avid reader. She'd love to like she'd give me her books that she'd finished. So like I read like the Harry Potter series by the time I was like 7 or 8. I read like all of the Percy Jackson books in like one day straight because I could just like read all of them like really quickly and like still take out the
Yeah.
information. Like I was a quick reader and like that kind of stuff. But once I got a phone, like you just realize like oh like hey I can like read Wikipedia pages for hours of useless nonsense, but you're not taking in like actual like art and literature. You're just taking in like bullshit like text, and you're not taking in like
Unrelated to what you're saying, but I think reading levels are stupid because I feel
will-
like
yes.
yeah, I feel like when I was that young and all my friends, like we were all reading above our grade level.
Oh, reading
So
levels
it's
are
like-
stupid. They're just like based on like what like the average for the entire country. It's not like
Yeah.
it's
Well,
not
that
like,
and like, what are the 10th graders reading versus what the second graders are reading? If second grader can read what 10th grader reads and understand, then they're 10th grader.
yeah,
it's-
like that like doesn't make any
it's-
sense.
I don't understand its use. I mean, I guess I kind of do, but like,
Well,
When I was in
if
the
I
second
remember
grade,
correctly, what it was
sorry.
based on was your comprehension.
Yeah.
Not even necessarily your comprehension, but what you could regurgitate back to them. So, like, if you read what it was is if you read it really fast and then could basically parrot back what you just read and not necessarily understand what you were reading, you were given a higher score. In
Really?
third grade, I was in a college reading level, right? Just because I could read fast and then I could
right.
shit back
Comprehend
out
the
whatever I just
information.
read. Not even comprehend. I didn't necessarily know what I was reading and what it meant, but I
If that-
could
Oh,
I could like guess. I could kind of guess what the idea was going. Like it'd be like, okay, what did you just read? And I would basically just summarize like word for word what I just read, and like, well, okay, well, what does that mean? And then you would just give like a basic idea, or even guess what it meant, and just based on the words you did know. And
Yeah.
so yeah, it was, in my opinion, kind of stupid.
yeah, the reading levels never made sense to me because like I'm kind of like in a different boat than you, Jordan. Like what happened in my second grade class was like my teacher used to get pissed that I'd read at a higher grade level. She'd be like, "You cannot read anywhere higher than second grade reading level," and I'm like, "Dude, I'm not trying to read about
That's
some
weird.
dog that like
Yeah, bad
picked up
teacher.
a bone." Oh yeah, the teacher was like really stupid.
Was that like
It was my school district.
what was
my
the motivation? What was the motivation there?
I
Do you
don't.
know?
I genuinely don't remember. I mean, that was like fucking more than a decade ago.
Yeah.
But like, I really don't know. I think the teacher had a fucking grudge on me though, because she was a bitch. But like, I don't know. Like, I remember like I said, the Harry Potter series. That was like the big like it was coming out around then. Like the last book I think came out around then. So I was
Sorry,
reading that
Sox.
last book, and that last book was like 700 or 800 pages. And she's like,
Yeah.
you can't read books with more than like 50 pages or some shit. And I'm like, what? Why? Like, I can comprehend, like, I can read that in like 30 seconds. Like, not really, but like, I can read that like in like less than a half an hour. Whereas like some of these kids are reading like Spot the Dog or fucking like Caillou comic books or whatever. Like, I don't know what kids those days read. I can't remember.
Yeah.
But, like, I don't know.
Well, I actually kind of had an opposite effect where when I was in elementary school, I was obviously graded really highly on my reading level, and they wouldn't let me read books that were below my considered like my reading level. Like I remember I really liked the Diary of a Wimpy Kid books, but because they were deemed too low, I couldn't check them out at the library. It was really weird. Cause,
Interesting. That's
and that wasn't for the normal school year, but for like summer reading, where they were like, you have to read over the summer. They were like, no, you can't check this out because this is too low.
That's weird.
And I mean, I kind of understand it, but if it's like, if you're trying to encourage people to read, you just have to let them read
Like, I'd
what they
understand
want to read.
if they were trying to read like a really like tiny book as like a 12th grader, like if they're assigned reading, if they're trying to read like fucking what's like a really tiny book, like what are those like the Boxcar Children or some shit, like a literal 50-page novel. Like I kind of
I forgot about the Boxcar Children. I really liked that book when I was in fifth grade.
You
I
know that
think.
was a series, right?
It was a series?
Yeah, I didn't know
I
that
don't remember
until
those
like
books at all.
the Boxcar Children.
What?
It didn't make sense because the first one was just about these fucking like kids living in a fucking train car.
Yeah,
In the
yeah.
next
I thought it
book,
was a one-off book, and then they got
it
like
becomes a
adopted
mystery
by this
series.
dude.
It becomes a mystery, like they're like the Hardy Boys, like they become like a Hardy Boys type thing.
Oh, that's where like what Nancy Drew
Yeah, like
or whatever
Nancy
it
Drew.
was.
It was very interesting, and I read a lot of them, and I kind of liked
What
them.
Nancy
But
Drew?
it didn't make sense. Like the series itself didn't make sense coming off the first book. If that makes
Yeah,
sense.
that's unfortunate. Did you ever read? Oh, what was it? What was it? The Shadow Children, I think, was the series of the
Oh.
books where it's about like
Yeah, the
the
kids.
kids were like
Yeah,
they have a population limit, kind of like what China had
you couldn't have with like more
50
than 2
years
kids
ago or
some
whatever.
shit.
Two
Yeah,
kids, right?
that was
Did you
such
read that?
I read all of those. Those were such good
I
books.
I read all those. I think we're leaving Ron. We're leaving
Ron,
Ron a
I'm
little
sorry.
bit.
Yeah, maybe a little bit.
Here,
Ron's a car guy.
we'll run
Ron's a
back.
car
Ron,
guy.
did you ever read Magic Treehouse? Magic Treehouse books?
Yes, bro. Magic
Yeah, I
Treehouse.
think so.
I
Were
read
those the
all
books
those.
where they would like go back in time and they'd have
Yeah.
some guy like
Yeah.
help them out?
It had like
Yeah.
adventures and shit. There was like an overarching story at some point too. It was pretty cool.
I was
Yeah,
the
it
kind of
was like-
kid who, from the library, got the like 2-inch thick book with like diagrams of airplanes.
Those were
Oh,
cool too.
Those are pretty cool. Like I think
I
okay,
also
so
loved
my
of them
style of
myself.
reading that I
Sorry.
loved was like I loved an overarching story, and I'm like a
Yeah.
sucker for that still. I just love like they're like continuing like even like just slight continuity. Like if it doesn't like all add to the story, like just some of it, and like it has like an overarching like finale to it as well. Because like so it has to end
I
at some
appreciated
point.
books like that, but I never really,
Got into it
I don't
super
know.
hard.
I read a little bit of everything, but more towards middle school, I really got into like how things work, kind of
Well,
deal.
I gotta
I
pop
feel
the
it.
question then. If you didn't read the I Spy books, I don't think we can
Oh,
be
I did.
friends
Oh,
anymore.
I did.
Those are so good.
My favorite one was the Halloween one.
Ooh, the
The
sneaky
I
castle.
really like this one that had oh, what are those machines called? The really complicated machines to do a simple task. It's a
Rube Goldberg.
I'm gonna have to
Rube
look it up.
Goldberg.
Yeah,
Wait,
really.
yeah. So
Yeah.
it had a Rube Goldberg machine in it, and to pop a balloon, if I remember correctly. And that was I really liked that one because I remember I would
Yeah.
just follow, like it was just a picture, obviously, but I would follow
Right.
exactly where the little marble thing would go, and I thought that was super cool.
Weird off-topic
I had-
question. Sorry, weird off-topic question. As kids, if you looked at a picture long enough, could you like genuinely like see like the stuff moving in the picture, like actions happening, or was that just me? Like almost like imagining it like happening, but like seeing it on the page. Like with those I Spy books, like that brings back memories of me like seeing like the stuff like physically moving, but not like actually moving. If that makes sense.
I would say physically move.
Have you always been a stoner?
Yeah, I've always had like that mindset for sure. I've definitely always been like a stoner at heart.
Mm.
It's so
Stoner
weird.
boy.
Stoner boy.
I wouldn't
No,
say I would physically see it move. More like when I'm reading, I get a lot of vivid mental pictures, but when I'm looking at an image itself, I think my brain gives the actual what I'm seeing the most priority. So if I don't
Yeah.
have any image to work with, like if I'm reading a novel, my brain will come up with
If there's an image, I might get like an aesthetic to it, and if I come up with other mental images, I think those would be kind of like when you read and you create the rest of the story in your head, like pictures, but
Yeah.
it would just be more similar to the style of the picture of whatever you're looking at, cartoon versus a picture book. If you think of a scenario with the characters in the story, you would think of them
in
the
that like
style
context, in that style, right?
Yeah, and with the aesthetic that the author artist had.
I think I know what you mean.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, you go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, just kind of speaking to that really quick, like the Narnia books, they would have a picture like every 20 pages or so.
Oh,
So I would
remember that.
I
That's
would
another
think
good
in
book
that
series.
I would think in the aesthetic, like what you're talking about, that they presented in the brief images that they would scatter throughout the book. So yeah, that's all. Go ahead, Noah.
And like what I would like to add to that is like I feel like I have just like I might just have like a really deep imagination to where like I can like personify the images, if that makes sense. Like I can like see stuff. It's not like actually seeing it move, but like I can like imagine it in my mind, but it's almost like I'm seeing the picture move. And then like when I'm reading books, which I haven't read in a long time, but like when I used to read books, I'd get like very, very vivid, like dream-like states of like I'd get like into the books. It sounds
yeah,
really
like a trance
acidy.
almost.
Yeah.
No, like people. No, I totally know what you mean. Like you'd have
It's like a
someone
meditative
calling your
state.
name and you just don't hear them
Mm-hmm.
at all because you're just so engrossed in the book.
I'd get very engrossed when I was reading. Like that would be like dangerous. Like time would like what you were saying earlier, Jordan, about like how like you'd forget to do remedial basic stuff like taking a piss or eating, like that kind of stuff. And that's like video games. Like that's what video games turned into, like my thing like that. But like reading was that for a long time for me as well. Like you couldn't get me away from a book for hours.
Do you guys
What is
think that VR will get to that point?
Yes.
I
Scarily,
think
yes.
it's only a matter of time. Oh my gosh.
I think
Dude,
it's within the decade.
Is that
Oh,
for the
I
better or
agree.
worse though? Is that for the better or worst? Because like
I think it's only for the benefit, in my opinion.
I have to
Yeah.
disagree slightly in the fact that like what if like okay, so I'm gonna go off on a little tangent here. I believe in the simulation theory. First off, I just want to put that out there. I've done drugs. Let's just say that. Then, like,
Wait, so you think we're all like in a simulation?
let me explain. So, like, okay. So we know this is our only reality, right? Like, and this is gonna sound really out there for a second, but like, let me get to my point. So this is our only reality that we perceive, and so we've gone directly to simulation, like making simulations, like games like The Sims, and like we can like completely simulate something. And then we've also gone straight to VR. What's to say that we're not already in a VR simulation headset? And we're just like gonna go one other layer deep, like Inception style. We're just going into another simulation type thing, and we're just never gonna.
There's
leave.
actually a game that's based on that in VR already.
Oh fucking hell!
Super hot.
I forget what
Super
it's
hot
called.
into that a little bit though too.
Super Hot? Did you say?
Yeah.
Yeah, Super
No,
Hot's
that's not
very,
the
like,
one.
that's
There's one
similar
where
to
like
that, though.
you keep putting on more VR headsets, and it's like a layered experience.
I
Um,
I think I know what you're talking about, but to add to that point to what Jordan said, I took acid and played Super Hot, and Jesus,
Why would you do
fuck,
that?
It was a bad idea, but it was kind of fun actually. I only played it for like 30 minutes, but like it was pretty fun.
As far as you know, you only played it for 30 minutes.
It was
Yeah.
actually 20 years. I've just been
Yeah,
playing
yeah,
it since I was a
40, man.
baby.
I think getting into like, well, you're talking about the simulation theory, and you're like asking, well, do you think it's something that is possible? I mean, I don't believe in it, but if I were to ask for a certain proof that it's technically possible, that proof would be the ability to compute every single thing simultaneously that we live and experience right now within a system that we make ourselves. So, like, if you think about it, the way a game works is not, you know, one person. Not everyone has everything rendering at the same time. So if you're playing a game, you know, it'll render what you see and what is important to the character.
Oh, we lost Ron
Oh.
again.
Ron has been
Rip.
okay. So let me just think. It'll render what you see and what's important to the character.
I know what he means, and what I was gonna say is like, well, I remember watching a Joe Rogan podcast with Elon Musk, and Elon Musk was talking about Neuralink, and like Neuralink could like visibly like alter you, so it'd be like VR, but like in your brain already, and you can also like have like neural connections, and like it can fix mental disorders and that kind of stuff. So like
If
imagine
it
we're
was to
all
the point
connected.
where I don't think it was to the point though when they did the I don't think they were at the point where they could directly influence and completely alter what the five senses were experiencing though.
They
Or
said
like
not
alter
yet.
us
Yeah,
They said not
brain.
yet.
that's like their goal, though.
Yeah, they said like
Yeah.
what was it like within the 10, 15
Oh,
years?
hey, Ron's
oh,
back.
Ron's back.
Okay, so
How
Ron,
long was I gone?
like
we
30
lost you
seconds.
at it'll render you what's important to you and what's
So you
important
couldn't
to
hear
your
anything I was saying?
No,
No.
no, you cut out a couple times. It's a
Aw.
ripperoni.
If
Was
we
it-
want to get existential, there's theories that the reason we haven't seen any signs of life is because all life out there has gone inward instead of outward.
Inward, like
Bars.
underground, or
No,
inward,
like inward as in
introspective,
we will make our own reality and change our perspective of time and what life really is, and just not explore anywhere because we have the means to create whatever we want within
Interesting.
our own systems.
Very
and that's why
interesting.
you don't see any life out there, any signs, because they
They went
never
inward
went
in
out.
their brain.
They went in.
Very. That's like what I'm
Having
getting at is like the
talked
simulation
about
theory
that-
though. Is like, what if
Isn't
we
the
just all
theory of
go?
simulation like everything is simulated? We are already in one.
Yeah, like
The
that.
problem with that is then like how would you get out?
It's
Like,
essentially
you
that
can
we're.
create a simulation. But
It's essentially that we're
that's
like born into it. Like we were like essentially just like put into it as a fucking kid, and we just live
this
that
is
life
my-
into it.
So
And-
this is my thing with that. I don't think there's like even a slight chance that we're all living in a simulation. Mostly because if you're at the point where you can directly influence what a person perceives, you would have the ability to prevent them from even considering the possibility that they're living in a simulation, because that could risk the chance of them breaking out of it and escaping.
Or going into another layer and never coming out.
I
Yeah.
disagree.
Right, so
I disagree because like I feel like there's always gonna be like people like conspiring about something, and like there's always like
right, but I'm saying if you can directly control the brain and what the brain does and perceives, you would be able to prevent that, is what I'm saying. Just like the whole Neuralink thing. If we get to the point where we can literally stop malfunctioning neurons and make them fire in a certain way to get a desired result, you should be able to do that if you're running like such a even larger scale than that, much more advanced than that. So that's where I'm at. Where like the very thought, the very idea, or no, sorry, the ability for us to conspire that we're living in a simulation is proof of itself that we are not in a simulation. Kind of like the I think therefore I am,
It's like
because they're able to consider it.
so it's like
not a
paradoxical
possibility.
then, is what you're saying. Like
Yeah,
if you-
if you want to talk about paradoxes, there's one thing that keeps coming up to me, which is, I think it's called the Last Thursday paradox. Am I still here, by the way?
yeah,
Yes.
you're still here.
Okay.
It's like whenever I go on a long-winded thing, I will make
Yeah.
sure.
Last Thursdayism is basically like, well, the whole universe, and this is just an idea and it can't be proven. And I think this is similar to simulation theory. Last Thursdayism is basically everything was made last Thursday. All your recollections of everything that happened before it was created last Thursday. And that's where the world started, just because it instantaneously was. And while technically, we could just talk about it and say, sure, that's a thing that maybe was possible, whatever the layman would like to say, you can't prove it. And that goes to like Occam's razor, where you take the assumption that requires the least amount of parameters and variabilities and everything, because you're slicing it down to the thing that makes the most sense without assuming the most.
So
And I think
essentially,
that's what kind of
so
shoots that down.
are you saying like we can like group together like simulation theory and like the Last Thursdayism like thing with like kind of like
I think they're
like
in a similar
Schrodinger's
vein
cat.
right now.
Like
Yeah.
they're in like a similar vein. Like you could say like it's like there's like not enough probability to say like either yes or no, but there's no point
there's
in like
literally no
worrying about
proof.
it. There's no proof on
So-
either.
Yeah.
So he's saying like if
But there's also no proof that it
if
didn't
you-
happen either, right?
Right, but that's
Well, you
why
would-
no.
you would default
Yeah,
to
exactly.
the most reasonable explanation based on
Right.
your experiences and because humans don't draw on our own experience, we draw on the experience of everyone around us and past.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So
It's
like
like
if a
group
baby
mentality.
and a car are trapped in a box and then the car is suddenly moved forward 4 feet or so, the reasonable explanation would not be that the baby moved the car. You have no evidence that the baby didn't move the car, but from what you experience, you know that there's no way in hell a baby has the strength to move a car. So you would say, okay, someone either got in the car and drove it, which wasn't the baby, because you wouldn't assume it was the baby. Same idea, because babies aren't smart enough to operate a motor vehicle.
Right.
So you wouldn't assume that it was the baby. You would look for kind of the path of least resistance of where you were like, okay, so I know it can't be this because of what I've experienced. What's the most logical conclusion?
I see what you mean
So
there, but like you can't
that's kinda
think
where I'm at
logical
with, like,
in that
simulation.
situation. I get what you're saying, and like that's definitely like the most logical explanation. But I guess like if you think it's not philosophical. What is it? Is it? I think it's philosophical.
Psychological?
It's like something like that. Like it's not like you have to like think on it. It's kind of like a stupid thing to think about. It's not like a realistic thing that might actually be real.
Hypothetical?
Maybe it's hypothetical. I don't know. I can't. I know what like. I'm
See, the
thinking of.
thing with theories of like existence and creation and everything that I find really interesting, if you are not objectively already, interested in one, if you're just looking at the history of where we get ideas like this, it goes with the technology. We didn't really start thinking about things like simulation theory until, a little bit before the 90s, I don't know where it started, but basically the idea of a simulation really kicked off with the advent of
Technology.
computers and technology that can actually simulate something.
I guess it can go
and
along
that-
with like the era as well, because like I mean like in like the 90s, like you said, like simulation theory took off, but like what if there was like a theory like way back in the day, like like I don't know, like the mountain
Right.
god is real or something like that. Like people are like
right.
thinking
Well,
of,
I
like-
mean, and that is how it was. Is the more out there assumptions of who we are or what is life or everything like that is based on what we are able to create or what our creations can assist us in doing. So like when we first started flying, if you look at predictions for the futures in like the early 2000s when they wrote predictions, in the 20s, they would there's like drawings from artists who assumed we would be flying through drive-throughs picking up coffee and drink and stuff like that, and obviously that never came to be.
no, we just flew
but-
through buildings. Anyway,
Yeah, in the early 2000s. Oof.
It was it was mixed up. They were just trying to get to work.
Yeah.
They're just like drive through, drop me off.
It was the Disney Fast Pass.
We're
We're
talking about
you get
9/11,
what I'm saying,
everybody.
though, right?
Yes.
You get what I'm saying.
Yeah. Oh
'Cause-
yeah.
Yeah.
Like everyone's gonna have like wacky theories about the future for sure.
So like someone in the
Yeah.
1800s wouldn't think of a flying drive-through because they've never even considered the
Experience
technology.
flying.
Well,
Yeah.
if you look at like there are some, especially when science fiction started, writers and authors who did actually predict stuff, but it was also really out there and it wasn't a mass accepted or thought of idea. Like let's say going to the moon. I think the first science fiction book, one of the first ones, was about going to the moon, and in the story they had a big cannon and they just shot someone up there or something like that. But I mean, things that we talk about now, I mean,
What about some
a
accurate
decent
ones?
amount
though?
probably will come to happen, but
What about some good accurate ones? Like look at like H.G. Wells as an author. He got it. Well, besides like War of the Worlds, like obviously like Mars hasn't fucking attacked us, but like hopefully not yet.
Yeah.
Maybe he's predicted the future, but like he's gotten like a few like decent scientific predictions down, if I'm not mistaken.
it might have
couldn't-
been.
Couldn't that come down to though, like,
It's coincidence,
whole-
most likely.
where like if you make enough predictions, one of them is bound to be right?
Yeah. Yeah,
kinda
no,
thing.
that's a big
Oh yeah,
part
it's
of
like
it.
a probability.
Because a lot of those predictions I'm talking about, if you listen to the like, recorded on radio or whatever back in the day, they would get like one thing right, and then everything else would be like, "What the hell are you talking about?" That would no.
Well, coming
It's not
back
how
to like
things are.
the, like, sorry, I didn't realize you were.
No, you're
No, I
good.
was just gonna say predictions about fashion and how they thought we would still be dressed
Oh.
weird, just with different materials. I don't know. It's just interesting.
It is very interesting. I guess coming back to like the canon thing though, like they kind of got it right in a way where like you have to have a propulsion system to get you up, right? Like they got like the whole like it's kind of like backwards. Like we use like a reverse cannon, right? Like that's essentially what a jet is, but it's just like a really
Well, like if you break it down to its most simplest part, sure. But
yeah,
like
I'm just like breaking it down very like
the
minuscule.
function of that's still kind of what Ron was getting to, in my opinion, where it's like they're going based off the technology they have and applying it to what they
think the
believe
future
to
will
be the
yeah.
goals of
Right.
humanity.
Instead
or
of
the,
thinking of the next technology that will
Right.
change everything.
Because not everybody
Because it
has,
was
like,
the internet.
And also, not everybody has like the inventor, like the progressive, like mindset. Like a lot, like the average person is just thinking about like the now, like what we have now. But there's like the smarter people that are like, oh, well, this can accelerate our growth in this scientific field or like this like field. Like like they can always progress.
is-
Whereas like the average person.
No, yeah,
is-
that is crazy to think about though. Like like some of the stuff, like even the airplane, just like some of the crazier inventions at like the turn of the century or whatever. Like,
Mm-hmm.
can you
fucking
imagine and
fire? Imagine
trying
a
to come up
caveman.
with something
Yeah.
that doesn't exist?
Imagine this guy
you
going
know.
like ooga booga.
Yeah.
And then you just like now like I can just go I'm like lighting a lighter,
Yeah.
It kind of gets
Um,
into the whole try to imagine a color that doesn't exist thing, except
Yeah.
turning it into a functional item that benefits those around you.
Well,
or
and
yourself.
also, all technology is never created in a vacuum. You have something you're already working off of, and it's been all the years of just human existence that got us there. You couldn't raise a baby in the absence of really any information, and like, you know, have it do something that would create a iPhone. You know, like it would be impossible, because you need to know what has been done and how it's
Well,
been
right.
done,
Well, no,
and then to
yeah,
build
that's what I
off
was
of it
saying
and
before,
stuff.
like with how we're social creatures and we draw on the success and knowledge of not just those around us, but those that have lived and died before us. Like we're
Yeah.
constantly, that's what makes us so successful as a species, is we're not just relying on what the immediate group knows, but we can go back hundreds of thousands of years and draw on the knowledge of the people that came before us.
Maybe
And
not hundreds of thousands, but
But we are constantly
well, you know,
extending. We are
I
constantly
meant
extending
hundreds
that,
or
though.
thousands.
you're right.
That's what I
Oh,
meant.
okay, yeah.
We are extending
but
like
yeah.
that, like carbon dating though. Like they have found like older and older artifacts. Like what was it like recently? I think as of like maybe like 6 to 7 years ago, they discovered a whole new like sapien or what was it? It was like a Homo something. It was like a Homo. It
Bro,
wasn't a
Homo?
Neanderthal. But it was like in Russia, they found like a whole new class like of like humanoid.
Of Homo.
Yeah, they were just fags.
The Homo family.
Anyway. But like you know how like in like there's like Neanderthals and there's like there's another one in South America and then there's another one in Australia. They're all like different like skull shape and different like
Right.
brain size.
Except we all killed them off.
No, not necessarily.
Bye-bye.
Actually, like we are all descendants of those different groups because they all interbred. So we didn't necessarily kill off the Neanderthals as humans. The Neanderthals.
Oh yeah, we still have DNA with them.
Yeah, like the
But as a separate
Neanderthals and these
species.
other like species bred together, and like that's essentially
Yeah.
how evolution happened. It was like we were just like doing like those fucking like I don't know what they're called, like the fucking like.
Yeah. Well, if you want to talk
biology.
about evolution, there's something your eyes can do that you might not know. If you go far enough back in time and you look at like the ancestral tree of where we've come from, obviously, when the dinosaurs went extinct, we evolved from really small mammals that branched out, and mammals kind of took over. But when I think it's called something like vestigial genetics or something like that, but basically certain functions that we have came from the way. Am I still here?
Yeah.
Okay. Certain functions we had came from our previous ancestors in that regard. Like your eyes actually will move on the like x-axis, you know.
Whoa, you're saying that they'll rotate like?
Yeah, very slightly, and it's more to keep your orientation when you're looking at things sideways and not mess you up. But that's because a long time ago, prey animals, and more specifically in our case, mammals, had the eyes on the side of their head, so they'd have a 180 or 360 degree view.
Wow.
So once evolution got to the point where our ancestors had the eyes in the front, we still have the slight ability to rotate like this, because when you translate that here, that's stabilizing your eyesight when you go back and forth.
That's crazy.
So,
I never actually
the more you
thought
know.
of that. That's insane. I guess like that's
Well,
probably
I
like
didn't know
evolving
until
out though.
a little
that's,
bit ago.
That's probably like evolving out slowly as time, because like we don't necessarily have like.
It's been around for a long time, obviously, because we still.
Well,
have
there
it
must
from
be
when the eyes are on the side
some
of the head.
benefit to, well, because humans are runners too. We're natural runners.
Oh,
like
that's
we're
true.
marathoners. So I'm sure there's some use.
Well, the
in
benefit
stability.
in that.
I guess let me
is
get back to like, the
stabilization.
simulation theory then, to where like the natural progression of where I think like we'd go is like we'd be slowly evolving into like the Neuralink. Like we wouldn't have any more predators. Like we are the predator. Like we're the apex predator essentially of the planet. Like
Well, I would argue we're already the apex predator.
Oh
as
yeah,
long as you're not alone.
we already are. That's why I'm saying like it's evolving out, just because we have no predators right now. Like we don't need those necessarily like those like things to survive anymore. And like as a species, I'm not saying it's gonna evolve out like in the next generation. It's probably gonna take like hundreds of years,
I mean,
thousands of years. And I'm
what
just saying,
trait
like,
would you?
Go ahead. Sorry.
What kind of trait would you say would be that?
I'd
Well,
say
also,
like,
well, you gotta also remember though. Sorry to interrupt. Is that like adaptations don't happen unless they give you a clear distinct advantage or a clear distinct disadvantage. So as long as you're not getting a huge disadvantage from the small rotation of the eyeball, it's not going to necessarily evolve out either.
I'm not saying it's like the disadvantage thing. I'm saying like if you look back on as like a species, so like back in the day, before we could domesticate animals to use as like transport, and before we like had like vehicles, we had to walk everywhere, right? So we had like
Right.
extremely good leg muscles. So now like as a species we do have extremely good leg muscles, but back in the day they had to walk everywhere. So like we don't have to walk
Are
everywhere.
you saying like the average
The average
um,
like build of the species is going
in
to
the
change over time.
population would be? I see.
Like the general population is going to change over time, and I'm saying like we're gonna lose
Yeah.
our general surviving instincts and our general surviving like stuff over time, just because like we're not gonna necessarily need it at an office job. Like we're gonna still like,
See
be
Well, I
on
that?
think
edge. We're gonna still be
well
on
also
edge a
some of
little
that
bit.
stuff I think translates pretty well too, because like being anxious, people don't really think of that as a
Oh, that's a
survival
survival
trait,
ability,
but
yeah,
there's a reason that people still have the feeling of dread and like anxiety, is because as long as it's in healthy amounts, it's actually a great motivator. Like if you
Yeah.
feel like something is going to go horribly wrong unless you make a certain action, you will be motivated to act.
Very
So I don't
true.
think it
Very true.
would necessarily have to evolve out of certain things.
And that can go into
Um,
the point where you're saying of like if it's beneficial, it's gonna stay. I'm saying like
right, but it
non-beneficial
also
stuff will like
if it's not disadvantageous, it will also stay. So like for
Right. So it
example,
might not have a clear purpose, but if it's not harming,
right.
then it might
So like
stay. If enough
Ron,
people have it.
if Ron has that, and let's just say for some weird reason I don't, as long as Ron isn't gonna get like a huge boost, or as long as I don't get a huge boost from not having it, because like what would the benefit be from me not having it? There isn't really any clear benefit from me not having it. So we'll both pass on our genes, and you'll probably still have that, especially
Yeah.
in different parts of the world. You'll still probably have that diversity where you would still. I don't think you would see a point where like it's completely
I'd have to agree with you on that for
out
sure.
of the
I'd say
gene
like it
pool.
might just become like an extremely recessive trait at some point. Like I've heard like there's definitely like stories of like people that have like are like completely like white and then they have like a fucking like black baby because like way back in their ancestral tree there was one black person and it's like an extremely recessive trait and it just stayed in and they were just born black and like
Well,
but
like
they're like
something
white.
I've kind of talking to what you're talking about. I don't know if I've heard anything like that. That might just be cases of someone cheating. Um, but, no wait, actually I think I have, where like a husband thought his wife was cheating and they got a DNA test and it was his child. It
Yeah.
was just because of like they were like mixed and the baby came out like really really dark. But kind of talking to what you're saying, like I've wondered personally if eyesight as a population has just gotten worse because of glasses and contacts.
We like rely on them too much.
Before, like if right, like before, you can go hunt, go shoot, you can go work, but if you didn't have good eyesight, that greatly inhibits it. So maybe not in like the last 50 years, but I wonder over like the last
See,
500
I've
years
thought
or
that
so.
about the like the lactose intolerant and not be able to eat bread, or like
Right.
peanut allergies, and
I've
how
wondered
it
the
seems
exact
like
same thing.
those are always on the rise.
I
Yeah.
have
And
two examples actually of that. So, first off, like I used to wear glasses, and I used to just wear them in school because I couldn't see the chalkboard that well, and like I needed to like see to like learn, of course. So I was prescribed glasses, and more recently, like in like the past like couple of years, I stopped wearing them because like it hurts when I stare at the screen too long while wearing them, and then eventually like they broke and I just haven't gotten them back. And so I feel like my eyesight hasn't maybe like necessarily not improved, but I've just gotten used to like the blurriness, and I can read street signs perfectly fine. I can read like stuff that I used to not be able to read perfectly fine now. And I don't know if that's because it's improved or if it's just because like I was used to the glasses for so long that I was just realizing that like my eyesight's actually not like that bad necessarily. And then the other point
I don't
I was gonna
know.
say
That one on an individual basis, I do know like the more your eyes have to work, like the less they'll degrade or whatever. Because like I know you have to renew. I have to get my prescription renewed all the time, and it's
Are you
always.
saying like use it before you lose it?
I guess in a sense, but in like in terms of glasses, at least
I
for
wouldn't
me,
know.
there's
Sorry.
no 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 I totally I think you're totally on the right track. But like for me, um, like my eyesight didn't used to be as bad, but now like it's really blurry, and like just with where we're at as far as technology, there's no point in trying to keep my eyes like 5% or 10% stronger just so I don't have to wear glasses because I wouldn't see that benefit. It's better for me to just wear my glasses all the time. I get more use out of that. So like on an individual basis, I think the body also has an extreme ability to adapt and change to its environment. But I
That's
think
for sure.
on like a large scale like gene pool level kind of thing where we're taking the average of everyone. Because Ron, I've also wondered that like in a world where if you don't drink milk, you have a million other substitutes. And you
Yeah.
pass like, does that create um, an opportunity for people with weaker digestive systems or weaker whatever to still be able to pass on their genes?
See, my understanding of lactose intolerance is specifically is, and I might be wrong, and I probably am, so don't quote me, but um, most people who can drink milk, that is just a genetic mutation that our bodies have adopted over time, and the people who can't drink it don't actually have the mutation because technically we're supposed to not be drinking milk after a certain age because it's for development.
So you're saying that not drinking milk is the
Technically, the what it
maybe the
should be.
disadvantage? And the ability to drink milk because you can get protein and different vitamins from it, that's the advantage, and that's why you've had
Maybe,
people that have started to develop that
maybe
over
that's why
time.
the mutation to drink milk in an older age and not have it mess up your systems is maybe that's why that for a long time has been popular, or with genetics. I don't know. You can kind of feel what I'm saying.
No, I get what you're saying, and I wonder if also that kind of gets into just kind of how prosperous not necessarily just country,
It
but a people are, because like if it might be just something you kind of suck it up and deal with it if you're living in like poverty
I was gonna say like it's probably
stricken
like a
country.
situational like thing because like in
Mm.
like first world countries you can like get like milk substitutes everywhere, but like in a third world country you might have to drink milk out of a goat's tin. Like that's like how it's gonna have to be. Like
Right.
so like
Well, like being like a vegan or something. Like you're not going to be able to be a vegan in a third world country.
I feel like people in that like state of mind like we're just like dealing with their stomach aches, whereas like in America they're like,
Mm.
oh, let me like diagnose every single stomach ache. Like
Right.
I'm lactose intolerant. I have also something called what is it? It's something bowel syndrome, but it like makes like my stomach hurt after I eat like literally anything. Like I could eat like 10 chicken nuggets at McDonald's and I won't be able to shit for 3 days. So I won't eat for like a few days because my system is so clogged. So like I'll have to eat
Crazy.
like yeah, like I'll have to eat like fruit or something. Like I'll eat like an apple and I'll shit like 10 times, literally like 10 times within like an hour. Like it's just so bad and it's painful. And like
Bro, socks look so comfy.
he really
Sorry to
does. I'm
interrupt.
sorry to get like TMI about this, but like it's so weird. But like I just like deal with it because like I love milk and like I would never
Right.
switch to a milk substitute. So I think it's just like people like just don't want to deal with that
Dealing with
minor
it.
pain. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's probably it. Like I
Hey,
just don't
fun
give a fuck.
fact. Ron, remember when I was really hungry at your place and I was like, I could eat 40 chicken nuggets and I was only able to eat 30? Well, I finally went to McDonald's really hungry and I was able to conquer 40 chicken nuggets.
Jesus fuck, Jordan. 40 chicken nuggets
Yes, sir.
in one sitting.
Yeah, it was actually I probably ate them within like 15 minutes.
15 minutes?
I was pretty proud of myself. I haven't eaten McDonald's though in like month and a half now. Just because like you eat that many chicken nuggets in one sitting, and you're like, okay, I never want to even look at a chicken nugget until I'm dead. And until you come back to it.
And then you just do it like a week later. Fuck. We've been going at this for an hour and a half, boys.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I just realized because I'm getting kind of tired. I'm down to keep this going for a little bit more, but I have to do some laundry, and
What time is? 12 a.m.
yeah, it's 12.
Oh wait, Ron, I
Ron,
can't
you're
hear
muted.
you. Can you hear
You're
me?
muted.
My bedtime alarm went off. Shit, so you
Oh.
couldn't hear me the whole time?
I
No,
couldn't
again.
hear you.
There's been a few issues with that run. It's okay.
Oh, that was my fault. I just
That
did
was
that
the
because I
mic, he
went
was
down to grab
muted.
socks.
Oh, it's a game.
Yeah, I gotta start getting ready to hit the hay too.
I'd say we should probably wrap it up here, but I'd say that we did pretty good for keeping up, like talking consistently.
Yeah.
I'd say like this
If
is a
you're
really
not
good like
good at
pilot
that.
Noah or
episode.
Jordan, and you're listening, let us, any one of us, know what you thought of it.
I'd say like this would be like a good like listen to. Like there's like a wide variety of like bullshit that we just talked about. So like
Yeah.
this
Who's
is
feeling
If we
shift
were
drunk?
to
yeah this is
upload
like
clips of it, we have a lot of
we have a
lot
lot
of
of like
thumbnails
random
we could
clips,
do.
yeah. So
Yeah.
like essentially like we're just like this is how we were at work. Just like rounded out is like we would just do this for like hours, like longer than this, like literally like
Maybe a little more
48-hour shift.
energetic.
More energetic, usually like hyped up.
We had to actually work.
Yeah, we were like on our feet the whole time, like bagging fries. That probably doesn't make sense to like you normie fucks, but like, don't look at me like that, Ron.
Well, it was also
Socks.
kind of cut in half. So like we'd be talking, get like a 45-minute rush, and then we'd go back to talking pretty well actually.
Usually, like right back into
Yeah.
the same conversation. I'd be like, anyway, as for
Pretty
what I was
impressive when you
saying.
think
Hey.
about it.
For the next episode, if we do this weekly, we should talk about GameStop and stocks.
Yes.
I don't know why we didn't talk about it today, but
I actually don't
Yeah,
know
we-
that much about the stock market, and I want to learn more about it. Jordan's been helping me a little bit. You've helped me like a tiny bit when you worked with me. Ron, you've helped me a
Yeah.
tiny bit too. I have $40 invested right now.
Bro,
Holy shit.
should have put it all in GameStop.
Game is
and
stuck.
then sold when you could.
GameStop.
Anyway, that's like
Or
the teaser for the next
GameStop, whatever it
episode.
is.
We should probably like wrap it up here. Though we've been going for like almost like
Yeah.
like a good hour and a half. We've been going pretty good.
All right, socks. Wrap us up.
Put socks on the
Where's he
camera,
at?
Ron.
Thick.
Oh,
Hey,
That's
buddy.
a daddy right there.
I
That
love
is a daddy.
socks. I haven't seen socks in
Why not?
person in so long. Aw.
Wrap it up, Socks. He's
When-
not gonna stay by the camera.
I'm not surprised.
He's gonna look at me. Come here.
Oh.
All right,
All right. Well, anyway,
gentlemen. I think that's a good spot for it.
Yeah, I'd say probably. Any last words before we suicide
Any
pact?
last words, Mr. Bond?
I guess if you enjoyed, please tell someone who knows us, or I don't know, just kind of share it around, because that'd be much appreciated. Because I think we're gonna do. Are we shooting for weekly?
I was
Weekly,
hoping weekly.
probably.
If we can, like, as
Yeah.
long as we can streamline the editing process down to like 1 day of editing, or at least like 1.5 days, we'd be good. And we can always split up the progress as well.
Yeah.
True.
So like, I'd say, but yeah, this is like some off-camera stuff now. But like, anyway, thank you guys for like listening to this mindless nonsense. It is so fun.
We'll have our faces for the next episode.
Yeah,
Hopefully.
at least like me and Ron. Well, I don't know, Jordan, if you get a webcam. I'll have to find mine actually. I don't know if I still have it. I might have lost it. Oh, sucks. Anyway,
Thumbnail
everybody.
gonna be socks smelling Ron.
I was thinking the one where Ron was stuck with his eyes rolled back in his head. That was funny. Anyway, we should probably
He's gonna attack me.
Good night, boys.
good night.
Adios.